Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the students and parents who have joined us for the open house today. My name is Sayona Pava. I'm a second year student majoring in English and Media Studies. I'm a member of the Ashoka Theatre Society, the Green Room, and intern as a content writer with her campus Ashoka. Our speaker for today is Mr. Ali Imran, Vice President, External Engagement at Ashoka University. Welcome, Ali. Before we get started, I would like to inform our audience that round one admissions to Ashoka's undergraduate program are open. The deadline for round one is 23rd November 2022. You do not have to wait for your 12th standard board marks to apply. You can get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid even before your final board results are announced. So without any delay, I would request Ali to please take over and address our audience. And I would request the audience to kindly type your questions in the Q&A box on your Zoom screens, and we will take them up later.
Good morning. Am I audible? Sayona, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
Sorry, I think we started off with a technical glitch. My network went off. So, what I'm assuming I'm supposed to start.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Thank you everyone for being here on this festive weekend and making the time for us. And hopefully it'll be a worthwhile conversation. So, the assumption that we have is that obviously you know a little bit about Ashoka. But what I'll do is I will walk you through a short deck which talks about the university and what we're aiming to do and what we've already achieved. And then we will have a Q&A. So I think the team will guide you on how to raise your questions. And then Sayona will ask those questions on your behalf. And I'll do my best to answer those questions. And if there are any questions left over, obviously we will answer them even after this conversation. So let me, without further ado, just share my screen and take you through the deck. Just give me a moment. Just let me know if the screen is visible. Sayona, maybe you can confirm.
Yes, it's visible, but it needs to be on the slideshow.
Yeah, there we go. So that's the university, which you can see in the background. I don't know how many of you have been for a tour, but we strongly advise that you do, because that's the real experience of what Ashoka is and what it has built. We actually have campus tours every Monday and Friday, but that can be a separate conversation between you and the team. As you all know, we are the leader in this space of liberal education in India, which has now actually become universal. The new education policy of 2020 says that every university is meant to be an interdisciplinary university. But we were there first, and we were there the fastest. And we've already built a lot of expertise in that. What it means is, as a summary, you're free to choose what you want to study. So it's a combination that you can make for yourself. You are not bound by a trajectory or by a stream like it is in your school career. It is the study not just of the arts, but also of the natural sciences and the social sciences. So sometimes people think that a liberal education is the same as a humanities education. Actually, it's not. It is an interdisciplinary approach. So you learn how different subjects interact with each other, which is how the real world is. The real world is not a verticalized world, right? It allows you both breadth and depth, and you can see the T there. So at Ashoka, you will first get to explore the breadth of various subjects through our foundation courses, of which there are 9. And then you will obviously choose a major in which you will get your degree. So it's a T-shaped student who finally emerges from Ashoka. And lastly, apart from what is taught in the classroom and what you learn from your classmates, the focus is actually on skills more than just the curriculum, because skills will carry you through the rest of your career, irrespective of what you choose to do in the fast-changing world that we live in today. So those skills include critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and of course, social awareness, because today, all of us understand particularly after the pandemic, what effect industry and all the work that we all do is having on the environment and on society. So you will learn about that, and you will learn how to implement it irrespective of what career or what profession you're going to choose. I mentioned that we are the first and we are the fastest in this area. So what makes us unique, obviously, is, like I said, you will explore before you choose. So you will do a set of foundation courses which will acquaint you with the breadth of subjects that you may not have studied before. You will learn from the best. I think this is a guarantee that Ashoka gives. And if you were to take even a cursory glance at our website, you will find that this is the finest faculty in the country for the kind of courses that we teach. All of them have PhDs from reputed universities. They've all studied there, and most of them have taught there as well. You will definitely go beyond rote learning. And that is something that is a complete break from the education system that we've all followed. Till class 12, you're meant to follow a certain trajectory. Only a certain set of subjects can be taken by you. But we go far beyond that. And it's not just about what you memorize from the book. It's more about trying to answer questions from different points of view. Importantly, this is a world-class education, but it's also affordable to all. And that is another commitment that Ashoka gives. So when it comes to selecting students, we do not look at the finances at all. We make the offer first to the student, and only then do we get into whether their family is able to afford the fees or not. And if there is a gap, then the university will fill that gap through financial aid. And that's a commitment that we have always given and have always lived up to. When we evaluate you, for most of you who will apply now, we look at more than your grades. So you're not just a person who's got 99.99% or 80% or whatever you've got in your board exams. In fact, the board exams don't even come into play in most of what we do. So we look at the whole person. We look at your experience, your extracurricular activities, your other interests. We have a letter of recommendation. We have an online essay. And we have an Ashoka Aptitude assessment, and we have an interview. So it's a very comprehensive process, and we make sure that no one thing, no one parameter is enough to get you in or get you out. So you have an equal chance to the person who may have more marks than you in the boards. We pride ourselves on our diversity, and the fact is that in this kind of education, perhaps less than 50% of the learning will happen in the classroom. The other 50% will learn from the kind of students who are in your peer group and in your senior group and your junior group, from whom you will learn much more than you would have learned so far in school, because they all come from multiple geographies, multiple backgrounds, multiple points of view. India's best have contributed to Ashoka. The list of founders is replete with some of the best known philanthropists, industrialists, educationists of India. They have all come together to create this institution, whereas they could have chosen to create another business school or medical school or engineering school. They were very clear that this is the education that India needs. And at last count, we actually have more than 200 such people in a group of donors and founders. And lastly, one of the things that you will learn based on all that I've described to you so far is how to be a leader. So irrespective of what you choose to do later, whether you choose to become a CEO, whether you choose to run your own enterprise, you choose to become, whatever you want to be, you will think like a leader, and you will have a perspective which a leader has, rather than just the normal perspective that a normal education would give you. The undergraduate program, which is what you're here for today, it consists of the foundation courses, which I've already spoken about, major and minor courses, co-curricular courses, and research. And with this batch, with your batch, it will be a 4-year program. In 3 years, you will get a BA Honors, a BSc Honors degree. Those are the 2 degrees that we offer. And with 4 years, you will get a BA Honors or BSc Honors with research degree. And that's the structure of the program. In the 4th year, you can do an advanced major. You can convert a minor into an equivalent major. So that's a second major. You can do research and a thesis, which is very, very unusual for India. You can be a teaching assistant, so actually impart learning to your juniors. And you can also pursue a new minor to enrich your education. These are the foundation courses which I spoke about. These are common to all students. And chances are that there will be at least 1 or 2 courses that no student would have done, irrespective of how diverse the education may have been till now. So there's mathematical thinking, there is the principles of science, there is Indian civilizations taught in a very different way from how history would have been taught to you till now. You will get to question, you will get to talk about your thoughts on what happened in history. Mind and behavior, again, an attempt to understand the mentality, the thinking, the psychology, the philosophy of how human beings function. Literature and the world, environmental studies. The environment is central to everything which is going to happen in the world from now on. The freak weather that we've experienced in the last couple of months is an example of that. In fact, Bangalore is flooded again as we speak. Introduction to critical thinking, in many ways, the cornerstone of education. The ability to look at a question from many, many angles before you make up your mind, which is so unusual in a scenario where we are always taught that there's only one answer to a question. But the fact is that in real life, except for maybe maths and certain scientific calculations, there are many answers because problems are complex. Economics, politics, and society, something you need to understand irrespective of what you're going to do in life, and great books. And these will be books that no matter how well read you are, you will get to learn them and read them in a different way. In terms of the actual curriculum, you can see the 4 columns here, the pure majors, the interdisciplinary majors, which are already combined majors that we prepared for you, minors, and co-curriculars. In the pure majors side, you can see that there is, of course, the 5 science subjects. So there's bio, there's chemistry, there's computer science, there's physics, and there's maths. And then there's also economics, English, history, philosophy, political science, psychology, sociology, and anthropology. But you also have the option of taking what are called interdisciplinary majors. So you could take pre-combined majors, like I said, which are defined as computer science and entrepreneurial leadership, maths and computer science, English and creative writing, economics and finance, economics and history, English and media studies, history and IR, politics, philosophy, and economics, a course which is offered really only in a few universities in the UK, ideal for people who want to do public policy, English and the performing arts, and 2 new majors that we've just introduced, computer science and philosophy, and psychology and philosophy. In terms of minors, you have entrepreneurship, environmental studies, IR, media studies, visual arts, performing arts, creative writing, Sanskrit studies, and China studies. Please note that any of the pure majors can also be chosen as a minor. So theoretically, you could do a psychology major with an English minor, or vice versa, right? So that's a very, very wide choice. And if you add up the number of combinations possible, it's in the hundreds. There are also co-curricular courses, which are compulsory. You choose from art or film or performing arts or languages or photography or theater. And these are courses that aim to fill the void that the school system has created, where students don't get a chance to explore these aspects of their personality. There are certain requirements for some of the courses, which are mentioned at the bottom. These are mandatory. If you want to pursue physics as a major or a minor, you need to have done physics at class 12 level. If you want to pursue a major or minor in mathematics, similarly, you need to have done maths at class 12 level. And for economics, physics, or computer science, non-math students will have to complete a mathematical thinking foundation course and a calculus enabler course in the first semester in order to be able to cope. Very importantly, as I mentioned earlier, people tend to think that liberal arts is just the arts. But the fact is that going all the way back to Greek times, the liberal arts actually included the sciences. And the really learned people of that time, and even in India, with the old universities of Takshila and Nalanda, they knew not just the arts, but they also knew the sciences. And that is how they understood the world in all its completeness. So in terms of the science options in Ashoka, you have the pure science majors on the left, and you have 2 interdisciplinary science majors on the right. So you have 7 choices. We also have now, as I just mentioned, in fact, the slide is not updated, computer science and philosophy. So that's actually another choice that you have. Why should you pursue science in Ashoka? It is a unique pedagogy. You will be taught science, not just in the classroom, you will be taught actually in the lab. So a lot of lectures will take place in the lab. But more importantly, the methodology involves questioning and a 2-way communication between you and the professor. It is an industry-oriented teaching and curriculum set. So we are very much aware of what's happening in the world and what is required by industry. These are interdisciplinary courses. So even if you're doing one kind of science, you will understand how it intersects with other science subjects. And that's very, very important today where the boundaries are collapsing. You will get to participate in research being done by our faculty. Again, very unique because mostly it's only at the master's or postmaster's level that you get to do that. But here you will get to participate in their research. Our faculty is globally acclaimed. They're from some of the finest institutions in the world, including the IITs and the ICERs and many, many, many global universities. And you will aim to solve real life issues, real life problems and societal issues. So this is a science curriculum which is very different from what is being offered anywhere in the country. We have ambitious plans for the sciences. We are making major investments in the new campus, which is coming up next to our current campus. We are developing a sciences park, which is going to have dedicated infrastructure for sciences and research. You can see the plan here. We are already quite advanced in building the Trivedi School of Biosciences, which is funded by one of our major founders, Mr. Ashok Trivedi. This is a 120,000 square foot building, which is going to house biosciences and chemistry. It will do research in the areas of disease biology, inflammation biology, and synthetic biology. This is likely to be the leading biosciences program in India in the next 5 years. And biology is really the new data, much like data was the new oil a couple of years ago. Biology is going to drive the science of the 21st century. We are also building an Ashoka Innovation Center, and there's going to be interaction with industry as a focus there. This is under construction. There will be focus on computer science and bioscience related innovation here. Again, a major investment that the university is making. This will be an opportunity for companies to fund actual research projects being done by students along with faculty. And it will also provide a startup ecosystem to Ashoka researchers collaborating with industry. That's our expansion plan for the next few years. We are currently 25 acres and we're building the second campus. But in the next 10 years or so, we will actually be a 100+ acre campus. We will be 4x our current size. Our student intake will go up from 2,600 overall, including masters and other programs, to 5,000. We will have the two schools that I've just mentioned to you earlier, and the science park, which is 120,000 square feet of dedicated space for work in the sciences. In terms of faculty, I referred to this earlier. It is the finest faculty in this country, and I think, no denying that if you compare it to any university, and I think you can take a look at the websites for yourself. We have currently over 200 full-time plus visiting faculty members. You can see a sample of them. This is obviously a random small sample, but they're all extremely accomplished teachers and researchers from the world's finest universities. In terms of admissions, I've referred to this earlier. We go beyond cutoffs. So we look at your academic scores. We look at your SAT and ACT scores if you've taken that. We look at your essays, which you will write as part of the application, which is live right now. We look at your letter of recommendation. We look at your non-academic engagement, which could be anything. It doesn't have to be only one kind of activity. But as long as you've pursued it with to some depth, that's what works for us. We also have our assessments, which is the Ashoka Aptitude assessment. We have the on-the-spot essay, which is only 30 minutes. So you will write it online. And then you have the interview. And only after that will the process be complete. And in stage 3, you will get the admissions decision, which will be a confirmed offer, a conditional offer, a wait list, depending on the availability later, a deferral of decision if the committee is not able to make a decision on your candidature right now. And unfortunately, yes, a denial of admission because the number of applications is now so high that there is no way that we can let in everyone, even if we really wanted to. And at stage 4, like I said earlier, the financial aid comes in. So we have financial aid provided by the university based on need. And we also have a merit cum means scholarship for computer science and the sciences. And we say with pride that no student has ever been denied an education at Ashoka due to financial constraints. That's the admissions timeline for the year. We are currently in the first round. The deadline is the 23rd of November, 2022. The assessment date, which is the Ashoka Aptitude assessment and the on-the-spot essay, is 4th December. The decision will be notified by the 20th of January. So essentially, you will be in a position to know in January itself if you've got into Ashoka or not. And that takes a lot of pressure off you in terms of taking your board exams and many other things. The acceptance deadline for that will be the 27th of February. And then, of course, you have the other 4 rounds. The last round will end with the decision notification on the 14th of July, the acceptance deadline for which will be on the 4th of August, and the commencement date for this incoming batch will be the 21st of August, 2023. I referred to the financial aid, but before that, let me also talk about the fees. The annual fees, including tuition and hostel and everything, is 10.37 lakhs per annum. Let me repeat, no student has ever been denied education at Ashoka due to financial constraints. This is need-based financial aid. It is a world-class education, but it's affordable to all. Like I said, the idea is that anyone who wants to partake of the Ashoka education should be able to if they make the merit bar. Close to 50% of all our students are on financial aid. 143 of them received financial aid in 2022. 90 crore rupees was awarded as financial aid in this batch which came in this year. And 6%, this is a statistic we are very proud of, 6% of our UG class is first generation college goers. No one in their family has ever gone to college. The second kind of financial aid is merit cum scholarship for computer science and the sciences. This is for exceptional students in the field of sciences from these 5 subjects: computer science, physics, bio, chemistry, and maths. This gives you a 100% fee waiver on tuition and residence costs. In terms of opportunities for summer and semester abroad, we have tie-ups with some of the most prestigious universities in the world. You can see a sample of some of our students who've gone to these prestigious universities, to Yale, to King's, to Columbia, to UPenn, and to many, many others. And every summer, increasing numbers of students are going to do summer abroad, and increasing numbers of students are also going to do semester abroad at different parts of the year. Semester abroad is actually an academic process. So you will be studying in that university and getting the experience of studying there, whether it's Yale or UPenn or any of our partners, which are, as you can see on the slide, some of the most prominent and well-known universities in the world. So there's UPenn, there's Yale, there's Berkeley, there's Wellesley, there's HEC Paris, which is actually a business school, but they've chosen to tie up with us, even though we are not a business school. Duke, King's, Trinity, Dublin, the University of Sheffield, Tel Aviv University, the Stanford Center for South Asia, and many, many others. The most recent ones are the University of Cambridge and NUS in Singapore. What the students really are interested in, the ones who are on this call, is campus life. I'm happy to report that it's extremely vibrant. We have fully furnished and air-conditioned residence halls, round-the-clock access to first aid and medical assistance, lounges for the students with various facilities, and all the services that you could need in terms of easing your life on campus, including a laundry, documentation, tuck shop, etc., etc. We have 50 plus clubs and societies on campus, covering really the gamut of interests that students have. And if you have a niche interest, you can start your own club or society after clearing that with admin. These are student-run clubs. They participate in activities outside the campus as well. Extremely, extremely entrepreneurial, extremely, extremely enriching in terms of what they bring to the campus. In terms of sports and fitness, we have the entire works. So we have swimming pool, we have courts for basketball and badminton, we have courts for squash, a comprehensive gym, a shooting range. We've had some champion shooters on campus. We've had champion squash players, champion football players, and so on. We also have cricket, football, basketball, and volleyball courts. In terms of support at Ashoka, very, very important. We believe in equal opportunity for all students, irrespective of background or special needs. We have an Office of Learning Support, or OLS, which supports students who have visual impairment or hearing impairment or some of the learning issues like ASD, ADD, etc. We actually have, in the last batch, a student with cerebral palsy, and we've really gone out of our way to support her, and we're very proud of that. She's doing really well. The ACWB, which is the Ashoka Center for Wellbeing, is available to provide counseling in the case of stress, which is obviously a reality today, as we are fully aware. We have the Office of Student Affairs, which will help you in every aspect of your life on campus. It will help you in terms of learning and development. It will help you to understand more about diversity and inclusion. and physical and mental well-being. And lastly, we have the Center for Writing and Communication, a unique Ashoka offering, which works closely with you and the academic community in Ashoka to help you develop writing skills. And this is, I think, the only program of its kind in India which teaches you how to write and communicate. We are very proud of the diversity, like I said earlier, and not just because of the numbers, but because of what it brings to the learning of each student at Ashoka. Because when you meet people who are unlike you is when you really start learning. So in terms of socioeconomic diversity, we've spoken about the financial aid earlier on an earlier slide. In terms of geographical and cultural diversity, there are 16 countries, 109 Indian cities, and 410 schools represented at Ashoka currently. In terms of gender diversity, we have 59% women, 40% men, and 1% other. These are all statistics for the class which came in 2021. Importantly, most parents would want to know what is the outcome that students achieve after they finish with the Ashoka undergraduate program. In terms of job placements, in the last year, we placed 336 students, which was the number of students who wanted to be placed. We had 350 plus companies on campus. The median salary was 10.6 lakhs per annum, and the highest salary offered was 37 lakhs. Some of the organizations which recruit from Ashoka, you can see them by vertical. Some of the best known names in banking and finance, management and consulting, technology, education and development, research and think tanks, media and communication, and digital and startup. And I should also mention that usually about 5 to 7% of the batch starts its own ventures, which is again very unusual for a university which is not a business school. So these are undergrad students who choose to pursue an entrepreneurial dream. Higher studies after Ashoka, some of the most prestigious universities in the world have welcomed our students for their master's programs, including Oxford, Cambridge, Brown, Cornell, Emory, ISB, of course, Indian School of Business, Columbia, U Chicago, LSE, NUS, Sciences-Po, NYU, the Graduate Institute, and many more. This is not an exhaustive list. Most of these students have gone on to do very, very well and have gone with high scholarship to these universities. Applications are open. As I mentioned earlier, the round one deadline is 23rd of November. That is the website, apply.ashoka.edu.in. You can also contact us. The team will share those details with you. Couple of things before we end. We are currently conducting a hackathon competition, which is a rapid prototyping and experimentation competition for class 11th and 12th. 18th November is the deadline to nominate the teams, and 4th December is the date to submit project proposals. 10th to 13th Jan will be the actual hackathon at the campus at Ashoka. So students will actually come down and perform what they need to perform here. Prizes worth 2,50,000 rupees are on offer. So I would urge you, the ones who are science enthusiasts, to please participate. And the last is what we call the Young Scholars Program, or YSP. This is for students who want to experience Ashoka before coming to Ashoka. It typically happens in the summer. So for class 12 students, it's a bit late, but certainly for class 11 students, it's very much a possibility. This is an introduction to Ashoka. It's also an introduction to the kind of education we provide. You have actual Ashoka faculty teaching you. You have founder talks. You learn a bit about how to write. You get exposure to a range of disciplines. You get to do experiential activities which enrich this whole program. And you get to do breakout discussions in small groups. And you stay on campus for the duration of this program. Extremely popular, extremely successful program that we conduct every year. And with that, I will close the presentation. And we can actually go back and take some questions.
Thank you, Ali. We will start with the questions now. So I'll start off with academics. Sure. Are there any prerequisites for the Bachelor's in Sciences in the psychology degree?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I think the prerequisites are typically for the quant subjects, and those we've already mentioned. But I don't think there is a prerequisite for the psychology major.
The next is if we are required to take all these foundation courses.
Yes. So that is pretty foundational to Ashoka. And the idea obviously is that you will get exposure to different subjects that you may not have learned before it will also give you an opportunity to decide for yourself if the initial major you stated when you wrote to us is the major that you finally want to do. Because sometimes people change their mind and they say, my God, I never experienced this subject before, and I definitely want to pursue this instead of the major I had assumed I was going to do. But even if you don't do that, this is giving you a grounding in many, many subjects with which your chosen major will intersect in life.
One of the students has asked if they can choose a minor with an interdisciplinary major.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work, by the way, in the interdisciplinary majors, but I mean, yeah, you can. Okay.
Is media studies only provided as a minor?
Yeah, as of now, yes, it's only a minor. Maybe in the future it'll be a major, but not right now.
And is there any scope for non-math students to be allowed to take economics, given that they provide strong mathematical skills?
So I think, as we mentioned in the during the presentation, there are prerequisites. You could try to do that, but you will have to clear certain things. You will have to clear the mathematical thinking course. You will have to clear a calculus course in the first semester in order to be able to study economics. Because economics now is also quite quantitative in nature, and you will need to have some amount of mathematical ability to be able to handle it.
All right. One of the students has asked if there's an option to do a double major instead of an interdisciplinary major.
So right now, actually, we don't offer double majors formally, but if you really want to, and by the way, it's again going to be a lot of work. It'll definitely be a 4-year process, right? If in 3 years, the degree that you will get as per the UGC rules, if you wish to pass out in 3 years, will be a BA honors or BSc honors degree, which will typically be in a single major. I don't think it is possible to do it in 3 years.
Adding on to that, if you could just explain the difference between majors, interdisciplinary majors, and foundation courses.
You want to try that, Sam?
Yeah, I can. So foundation courses, there are 9 foundation courses which belong to different areas and belong to different spheres, which all of us are required to do. Interdisciplinary majors are those which are related to each other. So like I'm pursuing one in English and Media Studies. So there's a lot of overlap between these fields. And so it's possible to do them together as a part of the same degree. And the other option that you have is if pursuing majors and minors. Your majors and minors do not necessarily have to have any correlation with each other as we would deem them to be. So you can do an English major with a psychology minor or a philosophy major with a physics minor. There's really no limit to what you pick and choose. But your foundation courses are necessary regardless of what major or interdisciplinary major you choose to pursue. Right. One of the questions is if you could elaborate on the difference between Bachelors of Science and the Bachelors of Science research program, and specifically how the 4th year is utilized and what's new and different about it.
Right. So, Ashoka conceived its UG program as a 4-year program. Okay. But in 2014, when we opened the campus, UGC did not allow non-tech programs to be 4 years. So we used to have a 3-year program in which we gave a BA honors or BSc honors degree as per the UGC requirement. But we strongly encourage people to come back for the 4th year, and in that 4th year to kind of complete the process that they started in their 1st year. And that could happen through a research project. That could happen through adding on more courses in the chosen major. That could be an additional major, like I said, doing enough courses to complete an additional major, and so on. Now, with the new education policy kicking in, this is actually a 4-year program. And that is how we had always conceived it. So the difference between what used to happen earlier and what will happen now is that the 4th year is actually meant to be dedicated to research as per the new education policy. As it happens, we were always doing that with our students. Students who stayed back for the 4th year, most of them would do some kind of research in some form. So in 3 years, what you get is a classical BA or BSc honors degree, and there is an exit possibility there. But the idea is that this is an integrated 4-year program. And at the end of this integrated 4-year program, not only would you have learned enough about the foundation courses and your chosen major, you would have also conducted some form of research or at least gone in depth even more than you had in the 3 years in your chosen major. So there will be an applied component for sure of, of the subject that you chose, right? So it's a very well-rounded, complete experience. And apart from that, obviously, the whole thing about US universities wanting 12 plus 4 if you want to do masters is a natural fulfillment now. So, and most of the students who went abroad from Ashoka, whom I mentioned earlier, had done the 3 plus 1 format anyway. So now it would be a straight 12 plus 4 format.
Thank you. So one of the questions is, when do the students have to make the decision regarding their major and minor requirements?
You want to answer that, Sam?
So you can, in your third sem is when you declare a major and minor, but you have the option of changing it until the next sem, until you're sure. And before that, you have the option of doing your foundation courses and try out other courses to make up your mind. And one, Ashoka uses a system of credits. How does that work? That's something which has come up.
Right. So each course has a certain number of credits assigned to it. And the co-curricular courses have 2 credits each, but the main ones have 4 credits each. As per the new formula, which will kick in now, as per the NEP, it'll be 116 credits in all, which will be required to do a degree. It used to be 100. It's going to be 116.
And what are some of the measures which are taken to sustain academic rigor, and how are our assignments different otherwise?
So I think Sayana can also answer that because she's experienced it. But I think academic rigor is non-negotiable. And I think when we screen students, obviously we look at the whole person. But it has to be very clearly understood that Ashoka is an academically rigorous program. And there is a lot of original work which will have to be done. So, of course, there will be reading to be done, but there will also be a lot of projects, a lot of papers to write, original writing, original research, interpretation, really getting into the subject the way it's meant to be understood. So, and as far as assignments are concerned, they vary. But I can tell you that, for example, in some courses that I'm aware of, till a while ago, there were no exams at all. But the exam equivalent was a project which actually made you do more work than taking a paper on a given day. So you could have a group performance, for example. You may have to put up a play working with 5 people as a group. And that's actually more work because that is original. It's not just reproduction of what you read in the book being pasted on the paper, right? So it's a completely different way of approaching education. And I think now we've been here since 2014. I can tell you with a lot of confidence that that way of instruction and the learning that it has imparted to our students is highly valued in the outside world. It is highly valued by recruiters. It is highly valued by the universities I refer to who take our students for higher education. So the intent which Ashoka had has been fulfilled. And of course, we are not sitting on our laurels and we have to continue to work harder. But it is a very different way of instruction. And it produces people whom you can tell apart as Ashoka students in any crowd of people from different universities. And I'm saying this with no ego or exaggeration, right?
That is true. The assignments are very different. I'm an English major, so we don't have exams per se, but we end up writing a lot of papers, and we actually put up a performance last semester for one of our
That's
courses.
right. That's right.
So it varies from course to course.
Yeah.
Another question which has again come up is, what does the 1 year of research imply? Is it independent research, or do students assist a full-time researcher?
So it could be both, right? I mean, it really depends on what's going on at that point. You could join a research being done by a faculty member. You could also put your own thought forward and do your own original research. Both are possible. It's an open book at this point because now, as per the NEP implementation, it is a part of the curriculum. So it will be an open framework for sure.
One of the questions is that in case of the interdisciplinary major of history and art, what would be the degree? The answer would be B honors. and that the honors in history and IR, and we'll move on to the admission process now. Are there any fixed number of seats allotted in the successive rounds of admission?
No, not really. But what I would say is that, in fact, that's a good question, because what I would say is that depending on how a round is going and depending on what applications we've received and the quality, the number of offers will depend on that, right? So there is no fixed number of seats, and therefore, if you apply early, then the field is fully open to you because the entire number of seats for the year is open to you. As time passes and as rounds go on, we of course treat all rounds equally. But if you apply in the last round, then you are leaving it a bit to chance in terms of you could perhaps end up on a wait list and stuff like that. But as a definition, no, we are not going by 1/4 for each round. There's no allocation like that.
What is the difference between the Ashoka aptitude test and the thinking skills assessment, the TSA?
So it's basically based on the TSA. Yes, it's the Cambridge model. So they are essentially the same.
Someone has asked to elaborate on the extracurriculars for the application.
Right. So what we need to see, and we don't specify what kind of extracurriculars, it's completely up to you. But we need to see some level of depth and commitment to that extracurricular activity. So sometimes what can happen, and we know we are all friends here. Sometimes what happens is that people will take up an activity 2 months before the university application season starts. A blog, an NGO, something that they're doing with their friend, and say that is the extracurricular activity. There's nothing wrong with that. But then you should be able to show that in those 2 months, there was something significant which happened. So similarly, if you are someone who's very interested in dance, then did you actually learn dance? Did you actually learn it for a period of time? Did you perform? And so on, right? So any extracurricular activity is okay, but we would need to see more than just the words extracurricular activity mentioned there. We'd like to know what you did and how far you went in that. I think the idea there is merely to see if the person has explored, and it's very tough in our school system, whether the person has explored some facets of themselves which are not there in the curricular area of their life, right? So that is really the objective of the extracurriculars.
I would also like to add that when we fill in the application for the extracurriculars, you have the option of arranging them on the basis of whether it's a personal pursuit or whether you've done it on a national, school or inter-school level. So based on that as well. A lot of the questions are about how people can prepare for the Ashoka aptitude test, given a lot of the students are from humanities backgrounds and have dropped math and other STEM courses.
I really wouldn't worry, honestly. I mean, Sayana, you can weigh in, but I think that the aptitude test is not a test in the sense of an IIT JEE or an exam like that. It's merely meant to test how you think. So even if someone is at 10th level maths or even less than that, I don't think there's a problem there. I really wouldn't worry, because every year a fair proportion of the students who take the Ashoka aptitude assessment are non-science students or non-math students, right? But I don't think that has ever been a problem. I think as long as you're able to read the question and reason and understand what's going on there, you will not have a problem. You will not need to do advanced differentiation or trigonometry. Unless your experience was different, Sayana, in which case, please tell me that I'm not saying the right thing.
No, even I'm a humanities student.
I know.
It was logical reasoning, and it was mostly, we've given all these assignments growing up. There's a basic level of math that everyone has done, and
that's right.
It was just critical thinking that, okay, if A is B, what are you going to do about it? And honestly, studying about it doesn't help, because you end up, if you go stressed, you kind of end up messing up.
That's right. And you got in, so clearly you did something right in the assessment.
So, one of the questions, which is, will the aptitude test be offline or online?
No, it's online. It is online.
Um,
It's on one day for everyone in that round. It'll happen on the same day.
and if someone has been rejected in the first round, can they reapply later?
No, you can only apply once in a year.
There's also the question of conditional acceptance, what it means, and do we have that option?
So typically what it means is that the application did not add up fully for the committee to make an offer. So once your board exam results are out, typically that is the so-called condition in a conditional offer. Once your board exam results are out, you share those with us, and then the committee will look at your application in the light of that. So there is something left for the committee to look at, which is basically your board exams.
There are a lot of questions on the internship opportunities in the semester abroad, and if you could elaborate a bit more on that.
So two separate things there. In terms of internships, we have a career development office, which places students, as I mentioned already, in more than 300 odd organizations, which also has an internship component. And internships come into focus in the last couple of years in a major way, and will become even more so as the policy kicks in. So the university works very, very intensively on getting students the right internships in various kinds of organizations. So there is a proper structure in place for that. And as far as summer abroad is concerned, obviously it's in partnership with our partners universities. So there is a criteria, there is a set of criteria which you will have to fulfill, and the host university has to accept your application. So there's a full process for that. I don't know, Sayana, if you've done any of those, or maybe the pandemic got in the way. But we've got a pretty free flow of students going for summer abroad now. Very large numbers every year. So as long as you follow the process, and I think there will also be certain academic requirements, more and more universities abroad are taking Ashoka students for summer abroad.
I haven't dealt with the summer abroad, but I did an internships, and it's the career development office helps, where we have an internship system and you can pick and choose in your interests.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of questions in co-curriculars, what they are, how many you're required to do, and what the process is over there.
So 2 co-curriculars, right?
Yeah.
Essentially. The process is merely, you have to select your chosen co-curricular. I mentioned the 6 which are on offer. And many people do choose the performing arts or film, stuff like that, which they've not got a chance to explore in their school academic career, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more to that. You will get to learn about that co-curricular from the relevant faculty, and then you decide which one you want to do.
One of the questions asks about the measures which have been taken for the internal and external security of the students on campus.
So as far as external security is concerned, we have a security agency with a large number of guards on campus. I'm not sure what internal means, but I think in terms of 2 aspects. One is discipline. We have very strict discipline procedures for any violations of discipline. And in terms of mental health, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Center for Wellbeing, which is available to all students to seek counseling for any issues that they might be facing. Apart from that, I think internal security really has not been an issue. I don't think we are a campus which has faced that particular problem at all. It's a nice place to be.
There's also a question of age. Someone is 21 years and wants to ask if they can apply for the undergraduate program.
Yeah, you can apply. I think, obviously, if you're 21, then you've either taken some time off or you've been to a different institution. So we'd like to know a little bit about that before any decisions are made on this. But yes, of course, you can apply.
There are a lot of questions about scheduling a campus visit. So yes, there's a link available on the website, and campus tours are conducted every Monday and Friday. For this semester abroad programs, there's questions about the students' financial aid and will it be given to the host university or would students be expected to fund themselves?
So I think the answer is it depends, but the financial aid that you get for the academic program at Ashoka, which you get at the beginning, extends across the entire period that you spend at Ashoka, but it does not extend to the summer abroad program because that is for education at Ashoka. And very often, US universities do have a cost for attending a program there because they incur the cost that they incur. And the US university in general is very particular about finances. So there will be a cost, and yes, it will have to be paid by the student in most cases. I don't think there are too many exceptions to that rule.
There are questions about whether the fee of 10 lakhs is just tuition or includes residence and tuition and all.
It includes residence as well.
There are a lot of questions on the sciences, so I'll head towards that.
Sure.
First of all, when will the School of Biosciences be ready?
So I think that is actually the first building which is going to come up, and hopefully sometime in 2023, that first building should be coming up. That's the first priority on the second campus. The work is on in full swing on that.
And are there any research collaborations with the industry for the sciences?
So like I said, that's a big piece of the big focus for the next few years. So a lot of conversations are on, but even otherwise, if you see collaborations, we have Emphasis, which is a major IT company. We have an Emphasis lab on campus. Our students get placed in many of the research organizations, including Microsoft and Google. And so there are those arrangements that faculty have with them. We also have an MOU now with the top 5 IITs to do joint research, which was signed about 4 or 5 months ago. So those are the academic sort of, that is the academic sort of understanding. But in terms of an on-campus collaboration, Emphasis is the first one. And there are going to be a lot more in the second campus. That's the whole point of the Innovation Center and the entire investment in the sciences.
Also, if you could go over the merit scholarship for the sciences and the CS program, and what majors they're available for, and what's the process for that?
So it's available for 5 majors, which is the 3 sciences, PC, basically biology, physics, chemistry, also maths and computer science. So for those 5. So you will apply normally, of course, to Ashoka. You will apply through the normal process. You will go through the admissions, the set of things you need to do for admissions. You will also apply for financial aid like a normal, a non-science kind of student. And then you have a chance to actually top up that aid which you're getting and take it all the way up to 100% waiver with one more process. So you will have to write a letter of, you'll have to write a statement of purpose, and you will also have an interview with science faculty, to decide whether you should be given this scholarship or not. And certain performances that you may have done earlier in science-related exams. So this data is available on the website, but essentially science-related scholarships or tests in which you may have done well will also come in play. So there's one more process that you will have to follow apart from the normal admissions process in order to qualify for this scholarship. So this year's batch, the one which came in 2022 August, in September, we have 11 of the scholarship holders in that batch.
Again, adding on to that, there are more questions on the admission process, and is SAT or any of the other CUET exams necessary to apply to Ashoka?
No, because we have a complete process by ourselves. But if you have taken the SAT or the ACT, CUET I think is as of now less relevant, because certainly this year the result only came out in September, as we know, by which time we've actually started our term. But if CUET were to happen, let's say in 2 parts, which many are saying, and there was a part which were to happen in March, then people who apply after March can definitely submit the CUET score as well. So the idea is to actually give you more options. So you will have the Ashoka aptitude assessment, which you will have to take. If you've already taken the SAT or the ACT, you can submit that. And as and when the CUET, etc., come into play, you can submit that too. And we will take the best of those. So the advantage will actually be yours. If you don't do too well in the Ashoka aptitude assessment, your SAT score could actually compensate for that, and vice versa, right? But if you haven't taken them, it's fine. You can apply for the Ashoka process without having taken any external tests.
Also, if you could talk a bit about the interviews and what's when you start with the process, what's the time gap between the interviews and the assessments so that the students can like prepare accordingly.
So typically, if the deadline is today, for example, for submission, the aptitude assessment typically happens about 10 days and on a weekend, about 10 days later, typically on a weekend. And the interviews start only after that, because once the deadline is over and all the applications are in, we also need some time to read and process, right? So interviews will not start till at least a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks after the deadline is over. We do try to keep reading as the applications come in, but depends on the volume, and the volume is becoming larger and larger. But the test, the aptitude assessment and the on-the-spot essay will happen on one day for everyone who applied in that round.
Yeah,
By the way, for the interviews, and we haven't yet found out the process for this year, but you have the chance to actually choose a slot.
That's that. There's some questions in student life. Is accommodation on a shared or an individual basis? This I can answer. It's shared. 2 people share a room at one point. One of the students has a learning disability, and they have completed their 12th through the NIOS curriculum, and they're asking how they should prepare for the aptitude test, and will they get extra time when they have to write the essay.
So I think you can get in touch with us separately. And if any accommodation is required for your specific need, then definitely Ashoka will provide that. And the NIOS curriculum is not an issue at all.
There are also questions about the YSP, if it's going to be online or offline this year.
So YSP will be offline. It will be on campus. The pandemic kind of forced us to do it online for 2 years. And even that itself was a nice experience, but it's not the same as being on campus and experiencing what Ashoka is like for a week or 2 weeks.
I would also like to add, in case of the previous question that we talked about, about the learning disability, if you could just write to ugapply@ashoka.edu.in, and they'll get in touch with you and help you out separately. There's questions about sports as well, and if support is provided to athletes who are looking to pursue sports along with their studies.
Yeah, so I think, again, you'll have to be a little more specific, but I think an athlete who is competing at a high level obviously has the requirements and the commitments that they do, and we understand that. At the same time, the Ashoka academic rigor is what it is. So I think this is more of a conversation than just for me to give you a pat answer, right? So I think you should get in touch with us separately and tell us your precise event or discipline in which you participate, and what is the kind of commitment you think will be required in your life to be given to participation in events and things like that, because that will have to be worked out.
So there's questions about if students are allowed to visit Delhi on weekends, and what's the shuttle schedule and how it works.
Yes, of course. So the shuttle goes to Jahangirpuri station, which is about 40 minutes away. And from there, obviously, the metro, takes you into Delhi. And yes, of course, students go to Delhi quite frequently. I don't know, Sayona, how often you've gone, but it's part of the whole experience. I mean, the availability of the capital city so close by. The frequency is quite high. I mean, it depends on the day and the time, but it's pretty high. It's very.
There are also questions on societies, if you could mention some of them, and specifically on debates and based on debates and public speaking.
Right. So that is a very common interest that people have, especially the ones who've done MUN and things like that. So there is a debating society. It's pretty active. They do their events. They publicize those events, in fact, quite a lot. And in any case, I think the structure of Ashoka is such that debating is hardly, I don't think a day goes by without somebody debating something. So the society exists, and membership is, I guess, by whatever rules the society follows. So please feel free to come and apply, and I'm sure you'll be able to join. And these are all very active. It's great fun, actually. I mean, I think they add so much to the life of a student at Ashoka.
There also there societies specifically in terms of debating, where you'll have one for debate, one for orators, one for improv, and you also
That's
have the
correct.
option
That's
of
correct.
joining other societies if you want to do something. So it's
Yeah.
open and it varies on student interests.
Yeah.
Right. I will move back again to the admission process because there are a lot more questions coming in.
Yeah.
How important is the statement of purpose and recommendation from the teachers?
It's not a statement of purpose, it's a letter of recommendation. Um, it's important because it is someone who knows you, um, and which is a clear hint I'm giving you. Please get it from someone who knows you, testifying to some of the things which are there in your application. Which, by the way, does not mean that you actually write out the recommendation you want for yourself and give it to that person, because then we can see that you basically copied exactly what you've written in the rest of your application and given it to that person to sign, and that person has signed it without even looking. And we all understand the pressures. We know everyone's got to do 50 recommendations, so they don't have time to write an original one for you. But try to get someone who knows you a little bit, right? So it's another point of view on you, and it helps us to judge uh, in a truly holistic way. This is one more input in that process. So it is important, but as I've said before, no one parameter is enough to get you in or get you out. So it'll all add up, and it'll paint a picture of you, right?
Um, so one of the students has said that they'll be applying to Ashoka in the coming month, and what advice you would give to a prospective student?
So that's a good question, and I just want to actually underline this twice with red pen. Just be yourself is my advice. Please don't be pressurized. Please do not go by what your senior is saying, or what your parents think, or what you may have heard, or what Quora might say, or Reddit might say. Just go with your actual authentic story, right? Uh, because if it's not authentic, in any case, you are trying to misrepresent, which is not the way it should. We should start a relationship. And secondly, anyway, we'll know because we are looking at you over a fairly long period, and we are also going to meet you. So just please be yourself. You are unique. You have a set of skills and a combination of abilities that no one else has. And let me tell you, that's enough because there is no one kind of person that Ashoka is looking for. There is no ideal student or a cookie cutter assembly line of which these students are falling. So it is a unique set of abilities and skills that you have. Just put that on the paper and don't worry about the rest. We are looking at you through so many lenses that we will know you very well. And if you're being yourself, I think it's going to be enough. All of you are bright, all of you are intelligent, all of you are aware of what's going on in the world. Just be yourself. I mean, like I said, I would underline it twice.
Again, adding on to that, someone saying that they have a poor academic score per se in the science, but if they do well in other parts of the admission process, which includes the essays and the interviews, do they have a good chance of being accepted?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not getting into what poor means because that's a separate discussion. But typically, there would be a context for any such situation. And, that's the problem with an exam system where everything depends on that one day, one paper. You could be unwell, you could be distracted, but it kind of defines what happens afterwards in your life. So if someone didn't do well in a particular paper, what could have been a possible reason? I think it's important for them to also have a view on that. That's about it. Otherwise, Now, which is why I'm saying I'm not getting to what poor means, because if you got 10 out of 100, then I think we need to have a separate conversation. But if it's not the crazy numbers which are achieved most of the time these days in the education system, that's perfectly fine. Academic rigor, though, as I've said before, I'll say it again, is non-negotiable. So then you have to be able to demonstrate in some other way that you have the academic rigor required to cope, particularly with the sciences, where I think we're pitching now at a very, very high level. So that I think you have to be prepared for to answer that question.
So someone's saying that their school will release their predicted grades in December, so they won't be able to apply in the first round, and if that's okay, and how do they proceed?
That's fine. That's fine. I think, like I've said before, for us all the rounds are equal, so you can apply even the later rounds. It does help to have the school give the predicted marks, yes, because then it's not just you predicting, it's also the school based on your performance who's predicting. So that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
There are also questions in the essays and interviews. What do the students have to write their essays on? Is it something related to their prospective major or just anything which they can choose?
So the easy answer to that is the form is now open. So there are just two questions, but no, I think it's not related to a chosen major at all, to a prospective major at all. It's more about you as a person. It's more about what interests you and what process you go through when you think, and what your beliefs are and stuff like that. And I would again say, for the ad nauseum, I would keep saying, just be authentic, be yourself. There is no right or wrong answer. As I saw a question somewhere saying, will you accept an answer which mentions a character from Three Idiots? Of course. I mean, it's you, it's your view. It could be from Dilbert, it could be from, I don't know, Chacha Chaudhary. It's perfectly fine. It's your view, your representation. It's what you are all about. So the essays are merely meant to check that. There is no technical question in the essay at all.
Also, adding on to that, there's a question about word limit for the essay. The word limit is strict, so that's something
Yes.
which the students will have to work on. And there are the two
Yes.
separate essays, one which is a part of your application and the other which will be on the spot. So those are the two aspects to it. There's questions about advice on how to prepare for interviews and what the interview questions would be based on. Is it personal? Is it based on your application, or should they look at something else?
How was yours, Sam? How was your interview? What was it based on?
It was a combination of both, where they looked at like the application, and I was really nervous. So the first thing that they told me was, please don't try.
Yeah.
But obviously when I walked out, I was like, no, this is really bad. But it was a combination what you've written in the application, and also for me I think it was also a lot of on the spot thinking, where we were given situations, how would you react to it, what's your reasoning behind it. And one thing which was said again and again, that there are no wrong or right answers. You just have to explain why you think this way.
That's right. That's correct.
Reasoning behind it.
So that's a great summary, actually. Having said that, I will say that, if your entire application, which some people feel that they should write it like that, if your entire application is about your interest in economics or a particular economic theory or the stock market or a particular author's books, then please expect to be asked about that, because you yourself have chosen to focus on that area. But otherwise, it is what Sayana said. I think it's a conversation. Okay. I think the fact that you have reached the interview stage means that there is already something working in your favor. The attempt is merely to understand if the person who wrote the application is the person who's sitting in front of the panel. And now, after 6-7 years of doing this, thousands and thousands and thousands of interviews, we know when it's not the same person, right? And if it's not the same person, then there would have to be a very good reason why it's not the same person. That's about it. There will be no grilling. This is not an inquisition. This is not a technical exam. You don't have to calculate, the distance from the Earth to the moon. You don't have to. But if you ask you that question, then you should at least say how you would approach it. That's about it. We don't expect you to know all the answers. No one does, right? And yes, it is important to not be nervous. I know it's very, very difficult. But like I said, if you reach this stage, then clearly there was already something there which interested the people who read it and the people who then go on to the next step of inviting students for the interview. So be relaxed, be yourself, just think through your answers. That's about it. It's a friendly conversation, honestly. We call it an interview because it's called that technically, but it's more of a conversation. You're also free to ask questions, by the way, in the interview.
Yeah. And again, coming back to the Ashoka aptitude tests, if there are any sample test papers available on the official website or any other way that students can prepare for it?
Yeah, they are available. And in any case, even the TSA is available. But it is there. I think there is a sample paper on the website, even now.
Yeah, that's there. Can a student who has repeated their 12th apply for the undergraduate program?
Yes, you can. You will obviously have to then explain why you repeated it. And if you did, if you got X% last time and you got Y% this time, as long as Y is more than X, it's easier for you to explain. If Y is less than X, then I think it would be even more interesting because you repeated 12, but you actually did worse. So the short answer is yes, you can. There is no such barrier.
If you could also elaborate a bit more on the sports facilities. I think someone missed it and they want to know a bit more.
So I think I mentioned it, but we have pretty comprehensive sports facilities. So I don't know which sport you're interested in, but all the sport that really you can think of are covered, and things like squash and shooting are also covered. And of course, the usual, cricket, football, basketball, all that is covered anyway. And we have a swimming pool as well. So, and a fully equipped gym. So sports is we are keen that students participate in sports and in outdoor activity, apart from all the academic rigor that they obviously have to undergo. But that's also very important for all-round development.
Adding on to all-round development, they're asking if there are any clubs for societies for climate change and what parts of the clubs or society look at environment.
Oh, that's a good question. I think we can get back to you, but I would be very surprised if there isn't. So I know you might know, but I think given the interest in this topic, by the way, we do have in any case, it's not student led, but we have a Center for Climate Change and Sustainability, which has been set up to work in this area of the environment and the effects of climate change. I would be very surprised if there's no society for it, but I think we can get back to you. I don't know all of them by heart, but and by the way, you can also start it if that's an area of interest for you.
Adding on to that, there is the Environment Ministry Tarang, which conducts inductions, and you can be a part of it. But there's also a new society which was started, which looks at the Sustainable Development Goals, which also includes environmental goals. So there you can look at which goals you want to focus on and what part you want to work on. Again, there are a lot of questions which are coming back on the degrees. Is there going to be a 4-year degree, or can one choose between a 3-year and a 4-year degree?
So, how it works is, as per the flow which the National Education Policy has defined, is that you can exit at the end of the 3rd year. And when you exit, you will get a BA Honours or BSc Honours degree. If you exit at the end of the 4th year, which is what we strongly recommend, you would get a BA Honours or BSc Honours with research degree. So that is the difference. And ideally, we would like students to come for the 4th year, to come for all 4 years. But as per the NEP, the 3rd year exit is available. And that's the straight and simple answer.
There's also questions about if there are any plans to introduce engineering or computer courses.
So computer science, we already have a major in. As of now, there's no plan to introduce engineering. Of course, like I said, we have an MOU with the IITs, but that's just to multiply opportunities and to cooperate on research and things like that. But no, as of now, there's no plans for a BTech or a BE degree.
There's again, There's one question which is again back to the admission process, that if someone is not someone who's a very big book reader, does that affect their chances of admission?
So look, I think one thing I will say, I think we all know that reading as a habit is kind of on the slow path as of now. And TLDR is like very, very commonly used, even on a post having 2 paragraphs. But at Ashoka, you will have to do a lot of reading. So even if you're not a reader, you will have to do the reading at Ashoka. You will have to find your own ways. Okay. But if you're not a reader and you haven't really read a book, it does not stop you from applying for admission. Because there will be other ways in which you explore the world. There may be, for most people, it is obviously the internet. For a lot of people, it is YouTube videos, or somebody they follow on social media, a thinker, a philosopher, a scientist, a pop star, an influencer. It's more about how you engage with the world. It's more about how you get your information, how you understand things, what interests you. Um, if you're interested in a topic, how do you get your information? Is it from friends? Is it from looking up particular sites? Is it just Google search? So even if you don't read, there must be something by means of which you are engaging with things which interest you. And those then you should put there. But fair warning, there's going to be a lot of reading at Ashoka. I think Sana, you will back me up there.
Yeah, there is a lot of reading, and I think that's something which you realize after you come to Ashoka, that books are not your only source of information. We are living in an era of information, so even your songs and
That's
what
right.
you see on Instagram says so much about you and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And it's important to acknowledge them as sources of information and not just sideline them as entertainment.
Yeah.
So again, on writing and reading, there are questions in the essay, if there will be any variations in the essay from round to round, or will it be identical to the first round?
Well, I mean, even if I were to answer that, which I don't want to, I don't think it affects what you do, because your decision is whether you're going to apply in round 1 or round 2. Are you going to wait to know the essay topics of all 4 before you decide when to apply? So I really wouldn't worry about that.
There are also questions about if Ashoka provides any design courses.
Not as of now. I mean, we have, as part of the Center for Entrepreneurship offers a set of courses which are meant to help you acquire skills to do with business. And one of those courses is on design thinking. But per se, in terms of actual design, certainly fashion design or product design or any of those, no, as of now, no.
There's also a question, again, this is more academic in nature, if there can be a double minor along with a single major.
I think that's possible, right? Sana?
I'm not too sure about that. I think we'll have to check. But
Maybe someone else.
Necessary. A major is necessary.
That's right. That's right.
Too sure
I think someone from the team can just look that up and quickly answer that from the side. Yeah.
Also, if you would clarify, if liberal arts is possible for students who've dropped STEM subjects, it's come up quite a few times.
Say that again.
Liberal arts, if students who have dropped STEM subjects in their 11th and 12th, if they can opt in and try for the course.
So I think we have mentioned the prerequisites, right?
Yeah.
And for some of the subjects, unless you have maths at the 12th level, you will not be able to apply. I think we got the answer in the chat on the minor question. It's not very common to have 2 minors, and it's a lot of work. So it's not very common to have 2 minors.
And then, yeah, so there's the interdisciplinary majors, which can be taken, yeah, but the minors one is mentioned.
Yeah.
There's again a question on timeline. What would be a good time gap between the assessments and the interviews, and how do students proceed ahead? Like, how do they choose which round to apply and based on this?
So I think I referred to it earlier. The advantage of applying in an early round, for example, if you apply in this month, then by the 3rd week of January, you already know if you've got an offer from Ashoka. And that then gives you a lot more freedom, flexibility, peace of mind, because then you can even take your board exams with less stress. And whatever else you may be looking at, you can look at in that context. So therefore, the short answer is we do encourage kind of applying early, but for us, the reason why we have 4 rounds is that we know that there are 4 kinds of audiences and there will be enough people who will apply after their board exam results come out too, right? But in terms of getting the answer early, the earlier you apply, the earlier you know that you've got it. And as far as the assessment and the interview is concerned, I think I already said, the assessment typically will happen 10 days after the end of a round, and it will be on a weekend to make sure everyone's free. And the interview will be typically after that, certainly not before that. And you will have the chance to choose your slot.
Adding on again back to the admission process, there are a lot of students who have expressed concern about co-curricular and extracurricular activities, which have reduced post the pandemic because a lot of their studies have been online. And does that make a huge impact on their applications?
No, I think obviously we understand that. And the pandemic cost people a lot in terms of what they could do outside their homes, and that's fine. But I think if you're genuinely interested in something, then you would have found maybe an online way to pursue it, is the simple answer. So we are fully cognizant of the fact that the pandemic robbed you of the opportunity to do full justice. And that is taken into account. Please don't worry about these kinds of factors. I think we are extremely accommodating of reality. Quite frankly, the pandemic was the kind of all-encompassing reality that we have to take into account when we look at applications. We've already been doing that for 2 years. Even the last 2 years, we had to take that into account.
I'll address one last question, which is about if a student is having some health issues, does Ashoka have the provision for medical assessment in case of any emergency?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that? Should I?
I think you should go ahead.
Yeah. So we have an infirmary on campus where doctors come. So certainly for minor problems, I don't think there's any issue at all. And if there's, God forbid, anything more than that, then there are hospitals close by with whom we have arrangements to admit anyone who needs it. Again, because I don't know the specifics of the health problem, I can't comment more than this. But that's the support that we do provide.
Right. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you for joining us. We hope that this webinar was helpful in understanding Ashoka's undergraduate program. We would really appreciate if you could take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link for the feedback form has been provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording for the session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel. So in case you've missed it or you would like to share it with your friends, you have that option. We also have our next webinar scheduled for Friday, the 28th of October from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., where the webinar will be conducted by the admissions team and they will shed light on the undergraduate admission process. The registration link for the same is in the chat box. Before we end the webinar, I would like to reiterate that the applications for round 1 of the undergraduate program are starting next year are already open. And the deadline for them is 23rd November 2022. And I was someone who applied in the first round, so I would definitely encourage students to start early. And they will have access to personalized mentorship from the academic counselors and get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid even before their board results are announced. Right. In case you have any further queries, you can write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or contact us on the number provided on the screen. So that was about it. That brings us to the end of this session. Please take care and stay safe.
Thank you for attending and happy Diwali to everyone.
Happy Diwali.
Okay, bye.